Hello again.
Hello.
So we are to our lecture 5 now, and we're going to talk about the third pillar of Islam, the
We should
truth.
say we should say this is kind of the most important stuff.
It is the most important stuff. It's I don't know how you call it, but the most critical for Islam.
Yeah,
Its entire credibility of Islam depends on that one subject.
yeah.
Right?
Abraham and Ishmael.
And I'm going to show you that Abraham is Islam's Abrahamic religion because everybody, including Christians and the Jews, and of course every Muslim will say yes, absolutely. So let me go to the presentation and we're gonna show you a few slides. So the question now it's $20 billion question, and that's what I ask every Muslim after I ask. Like, you remember, I ask first question: is the Torah in my hand is corrupted word of God? Then asking question about is the Quran and Torah came from same author? And now the third question I ask: did Abraham go to Mecca and build Kaaba? Of course, every single Muslim will say absolutely yes to that. And let's hear our Sheikh Yasser Qadi what he will say about significance of the Mecca and especially Kaaba.
The original Qibla for before the coming of the Prophet was Jerusalem, but the original before Jerusalem was Mecca. Mecca was the base. Before Ishaq and Yaqub established Jerusalem, their grandfather, their father Ibrahim established Mecca. And so Islam is indeed continuous, yes, but Islam is the original. Islam is the real deal. Islam is the orthodoxy that all the other faiths really seek. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, go ahead now and turn your face towards the Qibla. فَأَيْنَمَا كُنْتُمْ, wherever you are in the world, then face Mecca. And that is why Mecca has become the global symbol of the Ummah. Wherever they are, they turn and they face towards Mecca.
So you see how paramount issue it is, like huge, it's massive, is a foundation for entire Islam. And we're going to deal with this foundation by asking Muslim two questions. The first one, how much water do we need to drink per day? Hmm? And most people will say probably 2 liters. And now I'm talking about maybe desert too, right? In the desert might be more, but at least keep it as is. Then second question I ask, how many liters of water can an average woman carry in a jar on her shoulder? And here we can also agree with it could be around maybe 10 liters. And if that answers are correct, and they are factually correct, then Islam is not an Abrahamic religion, it's a pure paganism. Let me explain why. We have to go not so much into the Quran, but into the Hadith, because the Quran gives a just glimpse of information about, yes, the Abraham built the Kaaba with Ishmael and so on, and they pray for the Prophet to come for Arabs, right? Meaning Muhammad himself. But this hadith gives a detailed explanation what actually happened according to Prophet Muhammad. So it's in Sahih al-Bukhari, number 3364. Ibn Abbas narrated. Abraham brought her, Hagar, and her son Ishmael while she was suckling him to a place near the Kaaba under the tree on the spot of Zamzam, at the highest place of the mosque. Then Abraham stayed away from them for the period of as long as Allah wished, and called on them afterwards. He saw Ishmael at the tree near Zamzam, sharpening his arrows. When he saw Abraham, he rose up to welcome him, and so on. And then Abraham said, O Ishmael, Allah has given me an order. Ishmael said, do what your Lord has ordered you to do. Abraham asked, will you help me? Ishmael said, I will help you. Abraham said, Allah has ordered me to build a house here, pointing to the hillock higher than the land surrounding it. Well, that story which Prophet Muhammad narrated to his followers, and now we know from Ibn Abbas, and this is authentic hadith. It means Muhammad did not lie to them. Hmm? At least it's been recorded as what he said. Well, we're going to check with that information based on the Genesis 21, 14, and 15. So Abraham rose early in the morning and took bread and skin of water and given to Hagar, putting it on her shoulder, along with the child, and sent her away. And she departed and wandered in the wilderness of Beersheba. Then the water in the skin was gone. She put the child under one of the bushes. So this is very important thing. So we highlight. So Abraham gave her one skin of water, putting on her shoulder, and she departed and she wandered in the wilderness of Beersheba. So we have skin of water on the shoulder. That's why question was asked earlier. How many liters of water do we need to drink per day? Two, how many liters of water could a woman carry on her shoulder? 10. And now we're talking about geographical location, the wilderness of Beersheba. But the Bible, the Torah is very specific in details. And also said in verse 15, the water in the skin was gone. What does it mean? It means she never refilled the water on the way. So she took the water from the camp of Abraham, and as she walked with Ishmael, she came into the Beersheba. So now we can find out actually geography of the where was it happening. In Genesis, the previous chapter of Genesis, Genesis 20, verse 1, it said, from there Abraham sojourned towards the territory of Negev and lived between Kadesh and Shur, and he sojourned in Gerar. So here's we see on the map where Gerar is located approximately. So it's very close to the Gaza. And then, of course, we go back to that Genesis 24:14, the later part, and it says, she departed and wandered in the wilderness of Beersheba. Here's what we see Beersheba. It's very close to Gerar, and I could say maybe it's maybe 50 kilometers a day, maybe 2-3 days of walking, and both of them will finish the water. The 10 liters of water will be done by that time. They could not go any further because simply there is impossible, because she did not refill the water anywhere. So they drank it out, and but in 15 kilometers in 3 days or so, the water was gone, and she threw the child under one of the bushes. Now that's contradict the story of what Prophet Muhammad said, right? Supposedly, she traveled to Mecca from Gerar, which is 1,350 kilometers, 40 days of travel one way. She needs at least 136 liters of water for two people, which is absolutely impossible. So she cannot carry such a huge jar on her shoulders.
That's a
Right?
pretty big jar.
It is pretty big, pretty heavy, and well, of course, it's impossible. But the Quran says,
It's actually funny because when I ask Muslims how many
yeah,
liters can a average woman carry, and they never say 10. 10 is way more than they think.
oh really?
I think, oh, like maybe 4 or 5.
Oh, okay, even so. Oh my
So
God,
yeah, I mean,
that's worse.
she needs like a 400, 136 liter.
Yeah, so that's even
That's
amazing.
great.
So what happened is now, of course, when we read the Hadith, it said she didn't travel along. It's the Bible said, the Torah said she did travel. But the Hadith said, no, it's him who brought her to the Mecca. But when we look at the beginning of the verse 14, that's why this verse is significant. So Abraham rose early in the morning. So what happened is the night before or day before that event, the Sarah complained or said to Abraham, demanded from Abraham, then he will kick out Hagar and Ishmael. And God said, don't worry, you can do it, and I will take care of them. So he rose up the next day early in the morning. So what he was he traveling? No, he didn't go anywhere. He slept in a tent one night, let's say 8 hours. So went to sleep 12, wake up at 8, and let them go right away, early in the morning. The Bible is amazing in the sense how to go into the small details, like early in the morning, not even afternoon or before afternoon, right? So it's very close. It means he slept, and the first thing he did, first business in the morning, it was departure. He separated. So he never traveled. But look at what would happen. According to this hadith, and of course, here is I'm going to show you a book. So he actually traveled for 40 days, 1,350 kilometers, down south to Mecca, dropped them there, and went back again. So it's one way, 1,350 kilometers. So it's basically we're talking about almost 2 3 months journey, right? This why do we think about the 40 days? Like why not 39 or 38? Well, because this book is saying that. So here we have it's a Muslim basically explanation book, and you can see very interesting how uh, you see that very interesting appendix, and there's number 5. So it said like 40 camel days south of Canaan. Camel days meaning travel camel days, right? So that's important. So they say, oh yeah, it's 40 days travel for sure. It's far away, right? So therefore, when Bible said it is like he woke up early in the morning, there's impossible for him to travel, like unless he has like a transporter or some sort like from a future. But there is no way for him to go back and forth. Okay, so now when we look at actually map of biblical map of where Abraham went and what did he do, we see that normally this part, right? Where's the Mecca on the map? Nowhere there. And usually, Greg, I think when you have a chance to show people and the Muslims the map, physical map, you ask them where the Mecca is, right?
Yeah.
And they point down somewhere outside of the map on the coffee table.
Yeah. The way that I'll ask the question is, I'll hold up the book, my atlas. Actually, I'll just get it right now. You got it right here. So this is a good book to get. In fact, when I show it to Muslims,
Yep.
a lot of Muslims are like, "Oh, I got to get that." Like they really want to get it. They really like it, and it's nice because it has more than just, it has biblical history, also like church history.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll open to the page. I'll do it right now.
Yeah.
And I'll say,
That's a page.
so this is the one here that he was showing the image of, and I'll say, can you point to me on Abraham's map in the Torah, because this is all the places in the Torah that Abraham goes, and it gives references to the locations in the map. And I'll say, so according to the Torah's map of Abraham, where is Mecca on his map? Right? And so really, it should be like way down here from the map on the top. It's not even on his map. So I usually kind of say sometimes usually say, so that's how irrelevant Mecca is to the life of Abraham and his travels in the Torah. It's not even on his map.
Yeah, so it's only because of Mr. Muhammad said that's the only thing we have.
Right.
It's his saying now, it's his words verbally transmitted through the Ibn Abbas to us, and we have this one story, right? So it's he told us that Abraham actually brought Ishmael to Mecca. And why on earth he said it? Well, one of the reason he said it in the, he said it because of he wants to make sure that the Quranic passage about Abraham sacrificing his only son, it actually happened according to Islamic tradition, where near Mecca. So, and it's supposed to be Ishmael. And of course, the Torah, chapter 22 of Genesis, it's explicitly said it's on Isaac and it's on Mount Moriah, so which is Jerusalem area, mountains of Jerusalem, right? But Muhammad said, no, 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 no. It was in Mecca and it was Ishmael. And we might say, like, why Ishmael? Because Abraham brought him to that location. So we can ponder now, like, why it's significance for the Muhammad to say it, and what was the reason. And I think we can compare Muhammad saying, and his whatever he stipulate about travel of Abraham with Joseph Smith. Then he said Jesus came to North American Indians and preached there, right? So basically, what this guy tried to say that North American they seen Jesus Christ and they coming to him and they've been taught, and we could find out like what's the connection, right? And I
He's
think
nice
the
and white
connection
there
is
too.
simple. Huh?
He's nice and white there too.
Oh yes, we, and yes, exactly. According to Joseph Smith, Jesus is white. And by the way, these tribes also should be white. Hmm.
Sure, because they descend. Yeah.
Their descendants. And now I'm saying, like, I think what happened is it's Joseph Smith and Mr. Muhammad. They are very similar. And the reason I'm saying that because the question that I would ask, why Jesus visited North America, according to Joseph Smith, well, it's simply because Joseph Smith was born there. So he said, in the land I'm here, right? Christ came and appeared before these Indians. So exactly the same reason we can ask question why Abraham visited Mecca or Muhammad. Well, simply because Muhammad was born there. So I make a claim, quite bold claim. If Muhammad was born probably in Harlem, New York, right? Then he would have teach that Abraham visited New York and traveled across the ocean, as Joseph Smith said that uh, two tribes of Israel actually sailed to the North America. And then later on, Christ came and visited them. So this is kind of bizarre teaching, what we consider it. But it's also, we consider, well, the Islam is as bizarre as Mormonism in the
Yeah.
sense of geographical locations, right?
Yeah. If we can just add a little, so we're not going to present on this here really, but just to mention, it's actually very parallel because even Joseph Smith claimed that he was prophesied in the Old and New Testaments, and even specifically in Genesis. And in Mormonism, they have a so-called Joseph Smith, in so-called inspired version of the Bible, where he supposedly didn't really translate it, but supposedly his translation, most of the Bible or a good portion of the Bible that he has in that, and he adds in verses at the very end of, I think it's Genesis 50, where he puts in his name and prophecy about him, um, to try to justify himself, like, oh, he's in the Torah. So it's exactly what Muhammad is doing, is trying to find justification in it, but he can't actually. It's not actually there.
Yeah, because we will later on we're going to show in one of the lecture what exactly Muhammad in the Quran said. You can find him in the Torah
Yeah,
and in exact wording.
yeah.
So, but the problem is Joseph Smith being more smarter. He actually fabricated the Bible. He added
He
verses.
actually created one. Yeah,
He created one. Muhammad and his followers didn't create the Torah.
yeah.
So it's now we just looking at the Torah and saying like, where on earth you can find that words, right?
Mhm.
And then Muslims said, well, your Torah been corrupted. That's why it's so important to prove the Torah could never been corrupted, according to even the Quranic passages, right? Never mind history and common sense. Right, now let's continue. So we're almost there. So they have, therefore, the question I asked them, did Abraham go to Mecca? Did he build the Kaaba? The answer is absolutely no. So, and it means it have a significant implication. Since Abraham never built the Kaaba, never visited area of Hijaz, it means then that the Kaaba was built by pagans. It is the pagan shrine from the get-go, from the beginning to the today, and until the people stop worshiping that idol on the corner of the Mecca. So that pagan shrine, and I'm telling the Muslims basically, look, you 5 times a day or how many times a day you turn to the Mecca and you worship Allah. You think you're worshiping the house of Allah in direction of the house of Allah. It's never been house of Allah, if we imply that Allah is true God. So it's not the house of God, and it's pagan shrine. Yes, the all other idols been removed by Muhammad, but one idol is still there, the stone, and it's still pagan shrine in origin. Now, interestingly, Muhammad always prayed for 20 some years to the Kaaba, in the direction of the Kaaba. At that time, Kaaba was full of idols, and it didn't bother him a bit. He continued bow down to this pagan shrine full of pagan idols all over the place. Well, only then he conquered the Mecca. He removed all the idols except one. Because what he said, his idea was stop worshipping other gods beside Allah. Let's worship only one Allah. And like Meccan unbelievers, they say, well, we worship Allah, but we also worship other gods. Why not? Well, the more we pray from other gods, the better we have, right? So, and he said, no, it's only one God should be prayed. So he removed everybody except one.
We
But
should explain
yeah,
for those who are less familiar with like the Sira literature, the biography. So yeah, in Islamic literature, and in talking to Muslims, they'll know this. You can just kind of remind them. Well, remember what it said about what was there in the time of Muhammad, according to the Sira, according to the biography of Muhammad, or just say Islamic literature. We know that the Kaaba was filled with 360 idols, and Muhammad, obviously, okay, so later on in his prophetic ministry, or his claimed prophetic ministry, he cleansed the Kaaba from those idols, so he removed them. But according to the Islamic source, it was filled with it. But he thought he was restoring it to its original Abrahamic and Ishmaelite origins. And so it's not like, okay, he's just refurbishing a pagan shrine. It was originally Abrahamic in his mind, but the reality is that's a false assertion of his. It wasn't originally Abrahamic, in which case, as the Islamic sources attest, all we know about it, which is according to the Torah, it's not Abrahamic, and according to Islamic sources, it was a pagan shrine.
yeah.
So
So now we have this as that's why I understand how important this topic is, for how critical topic is to Muslims. And guess what? Only one verse, basically, Genesis 21:14, is dismantling entire idea that the Kaaba was built by Abraham. And it means so only one thing. It means that the Torah is like a bulldozer knocking down another pillar of Islam. And the Torah is a source of uh, putting the Islam down under the water. There is no way to escape. The Torah is a source of destruction of the Islam in the minds of many Muslims. And when we share with this to them, like we do it in a respectful way, but this information was not known to them. They like I could see them, and you, Greg, as well, right? You see them how they they're shocked to see that so obvious thing. Which some of the Muslims will said to me like, "Okay, the Torah never been corrupted. Why not? Like it's no big deal." For them, the Torah has no significant threat to Islam. Had nothing to do. New Testament, yes, because it's Jesus, Son of God. He was crucified according to the New Testament. That's
it's
contradictory.
doctrinal differences, it's
Yeah,
theology.
theology.
But
So
for the
that's definitely
but the Old Testament, why would it be different?
no reason, I guess, right? Seemingly,
Yeah.
but they have
Yeah,
to.
and the reaction I know when I share, I'm sure the same for you, is that it's quite a lot of silence on their end. They don't know, and sometimes they're like really. Sometimes they express like, yeah, that's like totally different and opposite, and they're we don't press them in that moment to give us an explanation.
Yeah.
Maybe we would more if they're like stubborn and argumentative, but they're not typically that way. They are just kind of, because it's information that they've never heard before, it's very shocking, and it should be shocking because it exposes that it's a like this is like, if anything, that's why we're saying this is the most important stuff. this is the most foundational claim, because
Yeah.
if the Kaaba wasn't built by Abraham and Ishmael and they didn't travel there, like notice that it's not okay. So all to prove that, like, there's two parts to the question, right? Did they travel there? Did they build it?
Yeah.
Right. So if they didn't travel there, they didn't build it there. So all you have to do is even just show that they never traveled there. Then you know that they didn't build it.
Yep.
So what it's very pivotal for people who learning this content to understand is that the geography
Mhm.
is paramount. So if you can establish Ishmael never even went there and Abraham didn't go there, then it couldn't have been built by them. It was only built by others, and the only information we have about who built it, other than them, other than the Islamic claim, is that it was filled with idols in the time of Muhammad.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So, and I should say too, this is so pivotal that, you know, if I essentially for some reason only had the time, and I know I would only have one conversation with someone, and I only had the time to share one of the pillars, it would be this one.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's enough to take down Islam on its own.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like a few grams of enriched plutonium would cause a lot of havoc. It's small, but it's contain a lot of power inside. All right, so that's the end of our lecture today, and see you next time. Thank you.